Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be doing our May native plant garden tour. I have so much that is coming alive in the garden right now. I'm just so excited. We've got some blooms. My Prairie Smoke is going bonkers. It's so happy, and so many things are bigger and more beautiful than last year. So very excited to share them with you all. Let's get to the videos now. Thanks so much for watching. So here is our Prairie Smoke, and it is doing awesome. It's probably about doubled at least in size since last year. And look at all the blooms it has. So many. So it's clearly happy. This is in my boulevard garden, probably about 6 feet from the road. I'm going to guess it doesn't get too much salt, but it's definitely super dry here, and it doesn't seem to mind at all. I love this plant so much, and I even have ordered a whole bunch more from Ontario native plants, so hoping to get those very soon. Here we are in the boulevard garden, and here is our blue lupin, and it is looking awesome. It has made so many babies in this boulevard garden. I'm so excited. These are looking like they might bloom this year, and this is babies from that previous mother plant. So hopefully we can see whether or not they hybridized, because they do hybridize with other non-native lupins. And so if the flowers don't look like the mama plant, then we'll know that it has hybridized. So fingers crossed it has not. And you can see we've got some more babies here and more over there and a whole bunch all over the place. So I'm going to try to move some, share some, and hopefully they'll all be the native variety. Here we have a few little patches of nodding onion. I'm pretty sure this is an early bloomer, so it doesn't look like it's going to bloom this year. I planted this from seed last year, and it's looking good, coming back, looking healthy, so maybe next year we'll get some flowers. Here, right beside the road, we have our Fleabane. This was a volunteer. I'm pretty sure this is Fleabane. If it's not, tell me, and I will correct this in the next video. I'm pretty sure that's Fleabane. I let this grow here as a volunteer. And then we've got common milkweed. So a couple that are growing right beside the road here. Kind of exciting. It actually was over here, so clearly it dropped some seeds and is growing now in other spots. Over here too, we've got a little bit of swamp milkweed that's coming along as well. So lots of fun stuff in the boulevard garden. Here's our prickly pear cactus, and it is looking pretty good. It looks pretty sad at the end of winter, but it's starting to plump up again, look a little less kind of wrinkly, and then it has little growths. So I don't want to get too close because these guys are actually quite sharp, but there's all these little kind of, it looks almost fuzzy, but I'm not going in there to prove it. But either way, this is a very cool plant that will grow in our Ontario gardens. So if you don't have it, definitely try to get some. It's very fun. I have grown some blazing star from seed, and I've got a whole bunch of babies. Now I am thinking that this is different than this. So if you know what this is, I'm kind of wondering if it might be a goldenrod perhaps. So I'd love some help identifying this before I pull it out and either get rid of it or maybe find a new home for it. But this is the blazing star, and I have this in a couple of spots to see what takes. Here is our wild columbine, and it is looking awesome. We've got some blooms starting to develop here, and these are going to transform into those very cool and unique seed heads that have a coral color that kind of blends into yellow. Very, very awesome. Love this plant and hoping that it will establish itself here. I did sprinkle some seeds, and I'm not really sure I see any new babies, but maybe they're just taking a little time to come as well. So here is our wee baby redbud. And look how happy it is. We have a whole bunch of new growth. You can see these cute little heart-shaped leaves. Now I didn't get any flowers on this, so maybe it's taking some time to grow, and maybe next year we'll get some flowers. Hoping for those pretty, pretty flowers to kind of grow all along the stem of this plant. Here's our golden Alexander, and look, it's doing awesome. I've got some flowers on the way here. And these are going to be those gorgeous yellow flowers that are going to look lovely in our part shade garden over here. And this is a host plant for the swallowtail butterfly. So maybe we'll even get a caterpillar or two as well. Here's our heartleaf foam flower, and all of these lovely little bloom heads are starting to pop, and they're just so very pretty. This is such a gorgeous little plant in the garden. I've been trying to keep this thing happy, and I just don't know that I am. Now it is starting to develop these kind of brown spots. So if you know what this is meaning, please do let me know, because I'm not quite sure that I'm keeping this very happy. I have definitely tried to keep it moist because it does like that. And even with my efforts, it seems to complain midway through the year. But right now it's looking great. Standing up tall at the back of the garden is our Solomon seal, and it is looking awesome. We've got a ton of blooms that are ready to start popping anytime now. It is a great plant for the shade garden. It is drought tolerant and looks really awesome, especially in the back. And then down here by the stems, we've got our Trout Lily volunteers. So this was a very cool find. I don't know when to expect a flower on these. This is the second year that I've found them here, so maybe next year if we're lucky. Here we have our Marginal Fern, and it is looking really happy. You can see them kind of unfurling and how pretty and cute they look. This is a fern that can handle more dry conditions other than some other ferns. So if you have more dry shade, this might be one to consider. I also have one here that I just noticed as I started filming that this is trying to survive. I've got a couple new little fern little pieces here trying to unravel, but we've got a dandelion here that's taking over. So I will have to do some rescuing here as soon as I'm done. Oh my gosh, are these possibly more trout lilies? I'm hoping yes. See, this is the fun part of doing these videos, is the discoveries you have along the way. So very much hoping that this might be a trout lily, but I'm not certain because it is a little hard to tell right now, but it might be. I have 2 volunteers in another spot, and so how cool would it be to have a couple more? Very cool. Very cool finds. Anyhow, moving on to the next plant now. So here we have our unruly Canada anemone. All of this here is what I had thought I had transplanted to back there in the garden. This is kind of more in the front area of my garden. My grass is just here. And then this was a little tall in this area, so I moved it, but it didn't seem to want to do that. And then I have a couple new seedlings that I started last year here as well. So trying to establish it more in the back because it is so tall, but I'll show you some close-ups here just because they're nice and easy to get to. So you can see that we've got a bloom here starting from the center of the leaf, possibly another bloom, but it looks like more leaves that are forming. So kind of neat to see the difference in some of these different stalks. We also have another one here coming from this leaf, which then made these baby leaves, which then made these baby flowers. So very cool seeing how this plant is developing. So this is clearly very happy here. It does not want to move to the back of the garden. It wants to be front and center so everyone can see. But it is doing great and definitely an awesome plant for the shady garden. Over here we have our red trillium, or possibly purple trillium, which I thought were the same difference. But I am seeing that the leaves are a little bit different. So I've got kind of like a red tinge around the outside of these leaves. And then these ones are more kind of spotted. So again, we don't expect to have flowers on these for a while. They take a long time to bloom. So we'll just give it time and see what pops up, maybe in a year or two. Look what we have, the most beautiful white, gorgeous white trilliums. I'm so happy to see these in bloom. These are the ones that have done the best in my garden, and these were actually a transplant from my mom's garden. So they take a little while to bloom, as you can see from our purple trilliums, which are itsy bitsy right now, and they're going to take a little while. So we will be patient for them, but in the meantime, we will enjoy these gorgeous white trilliums before the red ones pop up. Over here beside my trilliums, we have this new creature. I actually wasn't quite sure what this was, so I did a little bit of research, and I think that this is my Jack in the Pulpit. I grew this from seed, and I had itsy bitsy seedlings last year, and I guess this guy survived. So fingers crossed this develops into a beautiful bloom that I can share with you later, but in the meantime, we have this creature. So here we are 3 days later, and this is evolving. Check it out. There's the little Jack in the Pulpit guy right there saying hello.
He's kind of hiding because he's facing my house over here, whoop, and not the audience of the street. So he's being a little shy. We've got another one right here.
Here is our shady native plant garden. Most of the plants in here are native, so I'll just go in to give you a bit of a close-up. We've got some large leaf aster right here. You can see where it gets its name from. These leaves are quite big. They're actually kind of fuzzy as I touch them here. We've got a whole bunch of Woodland Strawberry. This was, I think, 3 plants last year, and it is just going bonkers, which is awesome. That's exactly what I wanted it to do in this shady garden. Over here we have our Zigzag Goldenrod. So that's doing great. That was 3 plants. These are all from Reap Green Solutions Bloom in the Box shade box. So doing awesome. And then over here in the middle, we've got our bush honeysuckle. That was from Ontario Native Plants, and that was just a spindly little guy last year, and it is starting to flourish nicely as well. And then up at the back here, we've got our Bottlebrush Grass. This is probably a good 3 feet tall right now. I have done nothing to these plants whatsoever this spring, and this is looking fabulous. So very, very happy with the shady garden so far this year, as it was really kind of a new project last year, and it's looking awesome. Over here beside our Bottlebrush Grass is our Christmas fern. You can see it's got a little bit larger leaves on it, and it is a little bit more needy when it comes to water than the Marginal Fern, so I will have to keep an eye on this. And then over here, I think this is my Dutchman's Breeches. I got this as a kind of a sad, sickly little transplant from someone, and I didn't think it was going to survive. So happy to see signs of life. And then I have some wee little things over here. Can you tell me what they are? Because I have no idea. I think I have another one over here as well. Maybe you can recognize this little seedling. Here is the happiest of our service berries. It is probably about maybe 3 feet tall, maybe 2.5 feet tall right now. I don't see any signs of flowers, but maybe there's still some hope for that. Either way, lots of life still. I have 4 of these on the property, and I'm pretty sure 2 are dead, and the other one is a little bit puny and nibbled. So this guy might give us some hope for perhaps some service berries, if not this year, maybe in the future. So this looks a little crazy, and I'm going to do some cleaning up soon, I promise. But this is my New England Aster. It's about 2.5 feet tall right now, and it is looking great. This is the older one on my property. I have a few newer ones, and they're a little bit smaller. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to let this grow all nice. And then in a few weeks, I'm actually going to Chelsea chop it right at the top of all of the stems. And that's going to make it more bushy and full as opposed to tall and possibly leggy. So I've done that a couple years. It's really worked well with this plant. And then all of these stems are going to go. I'm going to chop these all off and put them into what I call my pollinator pile, just in case there's any little bees that are making a home in these little stalks here. So don't want to disturb them, but I do want to make my garden look a little tidier very soon before somebody starts complaining. Over here, we have the start of our butterfly weed. So it's starting to pop out of the ground. This is a little bit of a later plant to kind of come and show itself in the springtime. But now we've got probably a good 4 to 6 inches on the tallest bit there. And then it'll start growing to about maybe 2 to 3 feet, and it'll all bush out and have those beautiful orange colored flowers midway through the summer. Over here is our little patch of black raspberries, and they're all doing great. We planted them last year, and we've got some flowers. So this is what will be the berries, and I haven't actually tasted them. I'm just going on faith that black raspberries are going to be super delicious. So hopefully I'll be showing these to you guys in a couple weeks or so. Here's our cylindrical blazing star. Last year we had just 1 stalk, and already it's looking like we're going to get a few. This had very cool purple little poofs of flowers along the stem that the pollinators just loved. Here is one of our little blue stems. We've got one here, there's another one standing back there, and then there's one in our boulevard garden. And we've got lots of new foliage coming. This plant kind of flopped over last season, which is why this was here, and this helped nothing. This did not help at all.
hoping that as it grows more full, it'll stand up on its own and we won't have to think about these things at all.
Back here in our part shade garden, we've got our swamp milkweed, and this is doing great. This is not a swampy spot by any means, and it stood up nice and tall last year, hoping for some lovely flowers this year. Hiding out over here amongst the lupins is our pale purple coneflower. It's a good 7 or 8 inches tall right now. You can see it has kind of like a rosy tinge to the leaves. This plant got huge last year. I needed to support it with this green support here. It was at least 4 feet tall. So this year I'm going to put a tomato cage around it very soon, so it grows up within the tomato cage, and hopefully that'll support it a little better in this garden. Here's our Scarlet Beebalm. We've got a whole bunch of little stalks starting. They're probably about 6 inches tall or so, the ones that are the tallest. And you can see there's lots of little runners growing over here as well. And hoping that this thing will stand up nice and tall and look really, really lush. It's been a little spindly in the years, so maybe this year will be its year. And to the right of our Scarlet Beebalm, we've got our obedient plant. And look, I think that was a red admiral butterfly that was coming to visit it already as well. And this plant is one of my favorites. It grows nice and tall, probably about 4 to 5 feet tall with beautiful purple blooms. So this is looking nice and happy right now. Probably even could thin it out a little bit too. You can see that it's stretching out, and over time I've given some to friends. So I'll probably leave it this year, but by the end of the year I'll need to thin it out a bit. So it might be a little tricky to see, but this little sticky guy here, this young baby tree, is my baby paper birch. And I actually thought that this was not going to survive. It looked like these had all dried up. I'm still not sure they're going to leaf out, but I do see some leaves. So there's one down here and there's a couple down here. So it is holding on. And if you have any ideas on how to best keep this tree happy at this stage in the game, I definitely would like to hear from you in the comments below. So this little patch is my spotted Beebalm, and it's already looking bigger than last year. So I have hope that this year I'm going to get some of those awesome kind of tiered blooms. The leaves are kind of fuzzy, and as I'm touching them right now, they smell beautiful, very herbaceous. So yes, wish me luck on this one, and hopefully I'll be sharing some blooms with you in a few weeks or so. Over here to the right of the spotted Beebalm is my wild blue phlox. And this has not seen blooms yet either. So again, hoping as these plants develop that they'll show me their beautiful colors in time. And then back here, I've got a few little bunches of white turtle heads. So I got some there, over here, and again over here. So this is a young plant to me too, again grown from seeds. So sometimes it takes a bit of time to flower. So I'm really hoping that I'll see these guys soon. Over here is our wee little spice bush. This is probably only about 6 inches tall. It got nibbled by bunnies. It's trying to be taken over by lily of the valley, which we'll be getting rid of soon. But there's lots of life still in this guy. So I've heard that this is a fast grower. So hoping that it'll grow lots of lovely foliage over this year and maybe be able to ward off the bunnies a bit better next winter. And then over here behind the spice bush, this is our American bellflower. Now this was grown from seed as well last year, and it was itsy bitsy, and now it's already a good 2 feet tall. So again, another plant that I'm hoping that we'll be able to see some lovely blooms on later in the season. Over here we have our great blue lobelia, and it is looking happy and healthy. Last year we had some of those gorgeous blue flowers despite being grown from seed in the same year. So if you're looking for a plant that can bloom in the same year that you sow it, this is definitely a good option. Also, it needs a bit more moisture than some of my other garden plants. So putting this beside my veggie garden over here was the plan, to keep it watered a bit more than some of the other plants that I kind of just leave alone and let do their thing. Here's our seed sowing station. So I sowed a bunch of seeds last fall, and some are peeking through. Funny enough, all of my little signs or labels are totally empty, so I don't really know what they are quite yet. So I'm gonna have to go back to old videos to figure out what's in this stuff. And some of the things are just nothing. So maybe they'll still come. I still have hope and won't get rid of them quite yet. Here we have another one of my seed sowing stations. So some of these were sown this spring, like our rock harlequin and some Monarda punctuata and some blanket flower, which is questionable whether or not it is native, but that's okay. I'm still gonna grow it. I also have my smooth rose in this pot. So this is gonna grow here for a while until I find it a happy home, because apparently it is very aggressive. So I gotta do some thinking. It looks like I have some wild bergamot starting, just tiny little guys starting right there, which is exciting. And perhaps some anise hyssop in this plant back here, or in this pot back here. I'll have to take a look and see if that's exactly what that was, or if that's just what the bigger plant was. And then here I've got some new plants from Ontario Native Plants. This is a pawpaw. Moving over here, we've got some Michigan lily. Super excited about that. I tried to grow that from seed and have not been successful yet. I've got some wood poppy, some prairie smoke, some more wood poppy, some black raspberry and red raspberry. And then I've got some foxglove beard tongue. I am noticing this is red. If anybody is more familiar with this plant, is it supposed to be red, or is that possibly a cultivar? And then that's arugula. That's not native. It just jumped in the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found the video interesting and helpful. If I missed anything, or if you have tips on how to help these native plants flourish in suburbia, please be sure to leave some comments in the comment section below so we can all learn from each other. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more native plant garden tours, gardening adventures, and tips along the way as well. Thanks again, and happy gardening.